Welcome to the Copilot Connection, episode 6.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights, and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson, and I'm an exec at Avanade in our modern work business. I'm also an MVP and a regional director.
And I'm Kevin McDonnell, an MVP, a Viva Explorer, and a solutions architect at Avanade. We're going to be releasing episodes as podcasts and also up on YouTube. We'll have insights from experts from across the community, from Microsoft, all about all the different areas of Copilot, the impact they can make to you and your organization, what you need to do to prepare for them or to start implementing now, and even how you can extend them.
So on this episode, Kevin's going to share with us all of the highlights from the European SharePoint conference in Amsterdam, and we've got some interviews of some of the... What?
Sorry, Zoe. It's ESPC now. They've rebranded. It's not just about SharePoint. It's all sorts of things. So we know naming's a common thing with Microsoft, but others as well.
Yeah, okay, so ESPC, we've got interviews from some of the community members there, but before we do that, we wanted to get into some of the latest news. And actually, we've got well, I thought it was interesting. We've got an interesting story to share just to demonstrate how AI has improved and advanced over the last year.
Yeah.
So
and I think people have seen this coming through from a lot of pictures that I think Jack... is it Robotham started with this trend of kind of creating the Pixar-like images. I know you've managed to do one, and I'm a little bit upset that it's a bit prejudiced and doesn't seem to cater for bald people particularly well.
Yeah, you're not the first man to say that to me, Kevin. I know a few people who've tried to actually get the hair of their designer avatar to actually look like them, and they've struggled a little bit. It was interesting for me because when I was creating mine and I was asking it to give me blonde hair, it defaulted to really kind of short chin length hair. When I tried putting shoulder length, it was still giving me really short, like bobbed hair, and it wasn't until I said long blonde hair that I got anything that was actually like my own length.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's certainly taken a jump on, hasn't it? And in the quality, I know it's moved on to DALL-E 3 relatively recently in Designer. I think you noticed a change when you looked at some of your memories recently.
Yeah, so it was literally just over a year ago since I first got access to Microsoft Designer, and one of the prompts that I put in to create an image was a cat speaking at a conference. And over the course of the last year, I've frequently gone into different image generation tools and I've used the same prompt. And you can see the picture on the left here where it says 1 year ago. That is what Designer gave me this time last year. And then the other cats, those are the ones that I asked it to generate this week when that memory popped up, and I actually wanted to see how it had advanced.
So for those listening in, we'll tweet this picture out on the Copilot Connection. You can see the old one has a kind of battle-scarred face, and I think we saw a few times with DALL-E 2 that the faces were a challenge, but it looks like for cats either as well. It's almost like someone's had some really bad taxidermy of a cat that they've created there, whereas the kind of newer one, it's put the cat in the right position in front of the microphone. It's got a nice collar and tie on there. It really looks like a cat. I could easily have imagined that being a cat, apart from the fact it's standing up at a conference as well.
Yeah. I mean, it looks a little bit like an airbrushed cat, doesn't it? When you look closely at the images on the right hand side, but the difference for a year is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And was it? You haven't put the picture there, but I think you shared with me another one that was interesting, where the whole front row of the conference was all men as well, which comes to some of the biases that we see in AI still.
Yeah. So that, I think that was actually Sarah Fenner who put the prompts in.
That's right.
Because she was testing it on her side, and she got a slightly different angle where there was a cat on stage and the microphone at the front, and I think the angle looked as if it was looking over the shoulder, and the whole audience was just full of men. So great improvements in terms of how it renders cats. Little way to go in terms of diversity and inclusion.
Which, it's fair to say we all have a little way to go when it comes to that in conferences, certainly tech conferences anyway.
So I know we're going to talk about ESPC shortly, but from a diversity perspective, I know we talked about Ignite a little bit from a diversity perspective on the last episode, didn't we? What was it like at ESPC?
It's interesting. I didn't think it was much better than previous years. My initial reaction, but there were some great groups. They have a diversity lunch there, and I know some of the women I've met from previous ones. They organised a kind of women in IT get together, and they often tend to kind of group together, and they met up quite a few times, and chatting to them at one of the points, they felt that actually it was more positive, that there were more women there than previously, and certainly there was more increasing diversity, sort of racial and ethnic diversity as well. And there definitely still a long way to go, but improving. I think ESPC has done a good job at making sure that the diversity of those speaking is improved, and it's just how we increase that and see that filter down to the attendees a bit more as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important first step, making sure that the people who are organising and speaking are more diverse and representative, and the diversity will follow. We're digressing a little bit from a Copilot podcast, but one of the things that I've been thinking about since Ignite was, how do we put the right how do we put the right challenges into organizations to make sure that when they're sending people to conferences, they're actually sending diverse representation as well, and not just the white men.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, why are we talking this now? Because it's that bias in AI that feeds into Copilot. We need to be very aware of this. We need to be getting better ourselves, because all these large language models are learning from what is being created out there, and that's why we need to be better at it, really. But shall we carry on with some of the news?
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Fantastic. So let's bring up there. In fact, let's bring that up full screen on there. So I know we talked about the kind of Ignite book of news, and we mentioned the Microsoft Copilot for Service on there, but now there was some more announcements and details on that as well. I don't know if you want to cover that.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see it in that banner at the top of the page as you're scrolling. So for those of you who are listening, on December the 1st, Microsoft announced that the Microsoft Copilot for Service is now available in public preview. There's a link on this blog, which we'll put in the show notes, that you can follow to sign up to get started. And so Copilot for Service to me is really interesting, because you've got on the one side of it Copilot for Dynamics 365, but Copilot for Service also includes Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio, and those integrations into other service platforms like Salesforce and ServiceNow and Zendesk. And I think from that customer service perspective, this is just going to be completely transformational for that agent experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've been we are Viva Explorers, and we've been in that for a while. We've had that world of Viva Sales that's kind of across everything. This is another example of that. This isn't within Dynamics. This is a layer above that includes that Microsoft 365, but it's going to be bringing all the different services and AI powering across those as well. So really interested to see how this comes together and loads on there. And obviously, because you have that Microsoft 365, Copilot for Microsoft 365, I'm going to get the naming right in my head one day. That also enables you with the Microsoft Copilot Studio, so you've got that ability to extend it and build your custom connectors in with that included in that pricing as well. So it's bringing a few things together. It's probably fair to say it's complicating licensing to a certain degree, but I think by bringing these buckets together is a nicer way of doing it, though.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really interesting for me that I'm not sure people have properly given consideration to yet is the fact that because Copilot for Service includes Copilot for Microsoft 365, it means that a really important part of enabling that for an enterprise organization has to be that focus on modern work as well. Whereas when we look at Dynamics customer service, that's very much focused on that BizApps world. So this is this is a prime example of how the lines between the different technology areas are starting to become more and more blurred as we go on this Copilot journey.
And technology, and also that perspective. I think Dynamics, we've been looking at that kind of customer experience. If you're looking at Copilot from Microsoft 365, it's that employee experience. Here's that bringing together. And I'm absolutely stealing what you were talking about with me yesterday on that one. So I'm definitely going to give you that credit. But it's bringing that AI powered to connect those two things together, which ultimately will improve the customer experience as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So talking about employee experience, there was also more in the news that came out around the Viva Glint and Copilot. So using that ability to go out with Glint, ask those questions of people. Glint is one of the Viva elements that can go out and is I've got to get this right way around. I'm thinking of Pulse. Glint is that enterprise scale, going out to everyone and asking those questions, understanding what that kind of underlying feeling around the organization is, that satisfaction, how engaged they're feeling, and bringing those results back. But with that power of Copilot, being able to kind of ask questions of those responses, not just see those canned data that's coming through, not spending hours and hours of going through that and trying to interpret what these different numbers mean and what the changes in those numbers mean. You've got that ability for that natural language to go through, and you've got those suggested prompts such as summarize all the comments from the survey, but you can build up your own prompts as well. So that will bring you not just the kind of the flagging of those numbers, so the rating, I think it's 1 to 10, isn't it, on Glint, or you can change those, but also the comments that people are going, what are they actually saying versus what the numbers come through as well.
Yeah, and just on this blog, again, we'll put the link in the show notes, but there's a Microsoft Mechanics video that actually shows this in action in a little bit more detail as well, for anyone who's interested in it.
Yeah, and I know from my previous organization, they were using Glint. One of the interesting things was, how do we digest those comments? What I will be intrigued by, and one of the challenges they have, was I think it was the sentiment analytics that were built into the previous Glint before it was Viva, didn't really handle sarcasm very well. So be interesting to see if Copilot has been trained on cynical British people and has that level of sarcasm adjustment within there as well. That would be certainly interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. I'm not sure how many countries that's such a big problem in, but certainly for those of us in the UK, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, it really was, and it kind of came out with much more negative views than people were saying. I think the example we just moved to a 9-day fortnight, and a lot of people go, "Yeah, I really hate the 9-day fortnight," in a very sarcastic way. But the sentiment analytics was putting that as a very negative perception on there, which was challenging what people were saying in the pure numbers. So, yeah, the fun and games with that. Very quickly, there was one more article from Jared Spatero. He has his newsletter that is well worth following. Again, we'll put that into the show notes. But he's talking about the AI at work from this. And I think, Zoe, there was a couple of bits you particularly wanted to pick up on here.
Yeah, so there's a section in here where he's talking about the time, and if you just keep going, I like the way that he talks about the challenges that there we go, the challenges that leaders will have within an organization. The first, I think, is where we're spending a lot of our time at the moment, which is helping people understand how to adopt tools like Copilot so that the organization can reap the benefits. But actually, to be able to realize the potential value of Copilot, we also need to help people understand how to use that time, because if they're freeing up a few hours a week and they're spending that doing admin work or other low impact work, then that return on investment is not really going to be realized properly. But actually, if we can help them understand how to invest that time in things that really move the needle, that's where we'll start to get really significant ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'd say also, allowing that extra time to allow people to focus and not being distracted by filling in bits of paperwork and other areas, to be able to get things done properly without all those myriad messages coming through at the same time, that I'm trying to ignore right now popping up from there as well. And I know I can see this article, it's talking about Bill Gates. He mentions that he's gone beyond that 4-day week. He's talking about a future where we have 3-day weeks on there. I think you and I would very much appreciate that happening sooner rather than later.
100%.
So, should we come back to ESPC? I'm looking at the time. We're probably going to crack into these videos and play these back. So, it was great, ESPC. What I love about that, I know, Zoe, you were lucky enough to go over to Seattle and see everyone at Ignite and the things there. But for people in Europe who can't travel there, and even there were people attending, I think, from Africa, and I met a few people who come over from India. It's that little bit less space to travel, while at the same time being able to bring people across fresh from Ignite. So a lot of the Microsoft people, Jeff Teeper was there, Adam Harmit, Omar Shaheen on there, as well as who we'll see in a sec, Karuana, Gatimu, who's there to share that information, share that live knowledge, but also some of the probably lesser well-known names. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying people like Kathy Dew, who I think should be very well known, and others there, but others from Heather Cook's team are there. There's a lot of those kind of core product group people who come across and share that information with people. And it's fair to say, if I was going to summarize what was talked about, Copilot came up in every single session that was there, even if it was to say that this session isn't about Copilot, but very few didn't have it mentioned within there. And certainly a lot of the Microsoft ones were very focused on that and the benefits it can bring there. Certainly the keynote, I think every single section of that mentioned Copilot. So it's very much a hot topic, which is why it was lovely that a lot of people were happy to come and speak to us.
Yeah. You had a personal highlight as well with Jeff, didn't you?
Thank you. I'd forgotten about that. Well, I had two highlights, I think, with Jeff. One was the opportunity to speak to him just after the excuse me, the keynote, and to pass along one of the fabulous Copilot Connection stickers we had that were called Be More Jeff on there, making sure that people spell SharePoint with a capital P and Copilot with no hyphen and a lowercase p on there as well. I did also have the opportunity to be introduced by Jeff at the AvePoint Red Party, wearing a ridiculous Copilot Viva Goals outfit and blowing bubbles up there, which kind of made the floor a bit slippery. And when he came back up afterwards, I did notice him slip, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, if I injure or worse Jeff Teeper here, this could go down as a moment in infamy. So thankfully that didn't happen from there.
Yeah. I could actually see the Viva Girls outfit on the door behind you as well, Kevin.
It is still there, yes, with all the fabulous Liverpool players on the back of that, because Robbie Fowler is goals to me. Anyway, before I go on to too much topic, I think let's run that video. And I just realized I need to bring that up. So here we have first my video, and we've kept the same questions similar to ones you had with those who were at Ignite. We asked the same sort of questions here, so you will recognize some of these. But here we go with the video. So here I'm at ESPC, and I have Karuana with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. Yes, I would. Hi, I'm Karuana Gatimu. I am the principal manager of the Microsoft 365 Customer Advocacy Group inside of Collaborative Apps and Platform.
Fantastic. So I'm guessing this will be a loaded question, but what does Copilot mean to you?
Oh, that's a great...
It is a very busy day job at the moment.
Yes, it's definitely made my day job very busy, but actually I feel like it is a moment in time that I don't know if everyone is understanding the importance of, in terms of generative AI actually entering into our day-to-day lives, and how that's going to change the way that we interact with each other, with our computers, computers, with the work we have to do, the productivity gains, the creativity it'll unleash. I'm really trying to focus on the import of this moment so that other people do as well.
Absolutely. And I loved Donna's keynote yesterday where she talked about the fact that ChatGPT, in fact, a year ago today, was released.
Exactly.
And you think about that change in a year. You know, we look back at these moments like this and we think, wow, that was quite a time to be around.
And it's a privilege to get to be here for it, right? And to get to play a part in shaping its future. And I think everybody has a part in that. And that we just need to remember that that's the case.
Absolutely. So obviously it is a big change, as you've been saying there. What do you think the biggest transformation will be for people?
Oh, I definitely think it's the method in which we interact with and understand insights from the information around us. You know, I spend an awful lot of time looking for information on a particular topic. I don't now as much as I used to, because I do have that benefit of using Copilot in my own environment. I'm able to apply it to my own productivity scenarios. I think that we've just barely scratched the surface of what that's going to mean to us as individuals and as professionals in this business.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm just interviewing Adam and saying that this change, everyone is learning. Microsoft's learning, clients are learning, people are learning from what's coming out as well, and it will be very different in 6 months as well. So.
Absolutely. That's so true. You know, we're at the very beginning of this transformation. So I think the most important thing we can do is stay curious, stay open-minded, allow ourselves to not focus on the overwhelm or be motivated by fear, but instead be motivated by that curiosity about what's next and what we can create and do with this technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of that, what do you think is the most important thing for people to do to prepare for Copilot? Whichever one they're putting in, what should they be thinking about?
Oh, I definitely think that they should think about the governance and hygiene of their Microsoft 365 experience, permissions management, governance, things of that nature. Of course, that's a near and dear topic to my heart. I've been talking about that for more than a decade. Now people have another reason to go back and listen to all my governance sessions. But I think that's important. I also think that it is very important to think about the people in your organization. What we've done at adoption.microsoft.com at Copilot is pull together resources that will help you empower people in your organization. Many places have not built the muscle of adoption or peer learning or micro learning or any of these sorts of things. Now's the time. You actually needed it for Microsoft 365 already.
Exactly.
And now, whether it's
you've got another reason.
You have another, whether it's, new teams or Loop or, SharePoint capabilities that are coming along. There's a lot of innovation happening. And so you want to enable your organization to self-teach at their own pace and in the flow of work.
Yeah, and I love what you talked about in the keynote yesterday, where you were talking about this, whereas before it was training, a lot more with this rapid adoption, it's coaching, it's getting people hands-on with it and then guiding them towards that as well, which that really resonated with me beautifully.
Absolutely. Let the product and the person's own needs guide their training plan. And so things like Viva Learning are perfect for that, or M365 Learning Pathways, the two which also work together so that you can build your own custom playlists for people's roles. I feel it's really important to allow people to learn in the way they want to. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by reading an article or watching a video. Some people need to ask their colleague about it. Have someone help them. Allow your organization to have the modes available. And I think that that's something that we as professionals can also do. And stop shaming people for not understanding software right at the beginning. Nobody does. I'm sorry, nobody does. There's very few pieces of technology or software that I could just walk up and use without ever reading anything.
Absolutely. And I think a few people have felt that with Copilot is you can just type and do everything. And I know it took me a little while to adapt to it, to get the habits, but B, writing in the right way as well.
Yes, that's prompt engineering, right? And we have a fantastic handout about the ingredients of a prompt. And I think that the more comfortable you get with building those prompts, the better off you'll be and applying them to your own work scenarios. That's why folks can't necessarily teach you about this. You have to experience it. You need your own aha moment.
And I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I know people are kind of wanting to get hands-on with Copilot, but of course they can use what was Bing Chat Enterprise, now Microsoft Copilot.
Correct.
On there.
That's
they can
correct.
start trying these things on there.
And that's what I recommend, actually.
Yeah.
Is that any organization that's trying to think about how to apply this in their organization, get started right now today with
Yeah.
Microsoft Copilot and their
Absolutely.
browser of choice. Because even before you log in with your Enter ID, you can begin to understand what this could mean for you.
Yeah,
And of course, there are controls for that in the admin center as well, so that it's not a free for all. People can do that in a way that will make them comfortable in their organization.
Yeah, which is important. And just quickly, you mentioned that prompt handouts. That's on adoption.microsoft.com, presumably. That people
Yes,
can
it
go for
is.
there.
That they can look under
Fantastic.
Copilot for Microsoft 365. We have a microsite there that has all sorts of information by role. So you can get started there. You can, whether you're a leader or a business user, there's content for you. And of course, for adoption managers, IT professionals, and developers as well.
Excellent. So we're here at ESPC at the moment. What is it that you've learned, whether it's kind of from hearing from the many great speakers or even from the attendees here and the customers that you have here?
Yeah, I think that people don't realize that when you work at Microsoft, sometimes you don't have as much time as you like to learn
Yeah.
about other products. And so I go to sessions here, just like an attendee,
Yeah.
so that I can learn, especially from MVPs and partners out in the field. That knowledge, that practical knowledge from people who are doing this every day with customers is invaluable to me as a Microsoft employee. So I really listen to what other people are saying, and I'm hearing a few things. I'm hearing the pace of change is brutal, pretty intense right now,
Yeah.
more so than usual.
Yeah.
I'm hearing additional concerns around, governance and compliance and responsibilities and new regulatory issues that are coming up.
Which is always a big thing in Europe.
It is, because
Yeah.
I'm here in Europe and I expect that. But what I'm not hearing, which I find interesting, is I'm not hearing a lot of the rhetoric around AI that I see in the news.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing that from people.
That's
And I
interesting.
do think they maybe need to be just a little bit concerned.
Yeah. Thinking about it.
They should think about it. I mean, when it comes to a bias being built into our systems, I saw a meme this morning. Actually, another MVP put out a great video about this, and so I do think that we need to be mindful in our transitions, but we don't need to be fearful. And I was glad to not hear that here.
Mindful, not fearful. I like that.
Thank you.
Yes. I feel a new sticker coming along
Yes,
with that
exactly.
one, so-
Mindful, not fearful. It's important because it's a co-pilot.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to trust themselves. I believe in the human race. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my failing, but I do. I believe in the human race, and I believe in our ability to use technology for good. I realize there are bad actors in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the people who deal with them. But I am on the other side of that, and I am dealing with the people who are trying to help others. And there's so very many of us, so very many people who want to help others with the technology at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we always get the attention that we deserve, right? We do tend to focus on the negative, as a people and through the media. But really what people are doing in most industries that I encounter are trying to move forward, help others, grow, be economically viable, create opportunity for people, really literally help people achieve more.
Absolutely.
And so I get very inspired by that because it's not a slogan. It is people's lives, and it matters. So I definitely get inspired by that when I'm here with this many customers who are doing exactly that.
Nice. So, last question, and obviously being at Microsoft, you'll see some early access, but what is it that you'd like to see next happening with Copilots?
I am excited for the co-pilots that are coming to admin experiences because when you think about what we've heard about so far, the most, it's really the business user, right? It's co-pilot in Word and PowerPoint in Excel, in Teams, and what have you. Those are all business user features, facing features. I'm excited for co-pilot in the admin center. I'm excited for security co-pilot. I'm excited for the announcements that we've made around co-pilot in Azure, right? Because those are things that will directly affect us as professionals, and we're on the surface areas where we spend a lot of our time. And I know that many people are very, very busy, but I have a special place in my heart for the overworked IT admin.
Absolutely.
Because I've been that person, and there's just so much to do, and there's a lot involved, especially at an enterprise level. Once you get past 1,000 people, there's a lot to manage in an M365 tenant, and if you're past 50,000, it's a team's worth of work.
Completely.
So anything that will help drive productivity for those people in particular, and then secondly for developers, I feel like those to the extensibility model, I'm really excited about. I was just talking to someone this morning about the fact I need to sit down and build something so that I can learn more of it. I've read a lot. I need to do it because that's how I learn.
That's the reality. Isn't it?
I have to do it. And so I went to sessions on that here. Some people don't know I'm a business solution architect. But I do actually do that work, and I enjoy it. For me, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
When I have the time to focus and think and do that. So those are the things I'm really excited about, because I feel like it'll help the professionals who are helping others. Anything that you can, it's like putting on your air mask first, or helping the caregiver, right? Yeah. If you can help the people who are helping the masses, really be effective and productive, then you're doing something, and that's why I get up in the morning. So,
well, I personally am now looking forward to the adoption Copilot coming out from that. So I'd like to see that.
I'm thinking about what does that look like? Like exactly.
No, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great time the rest of your time here in Amsterdam, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So that was really interesting to see from Karuana, and hopefully the editing has hidden the fact that I started speaking on mute there and carried on. But I know it wasn't massively easy for you to hear, Zoe. So I'm going to pick out a few things that were interesting. I think that I loved where Karuana started about that moment in time that we're in at the moment, and it's quite likely we won't really realize the importance of that until we look back at this in the future. We'll look back at this point in time. We kind of realized that it was a year ago. I think from Don Osaka said in the keynote, it was a year ago that day that ChatGPT came out, and that blew my mind slightly. How much has changed in that time?
Yeah, the rate of change, like Karuana said, it's just been brutal, hasn't it? I think for us as technologists who work in this industry, we've been on a wild ride. So goodness only knows how people inside organizations feel when they're having to adapt to all of these things. And it does feel like the last few months have been the start of a real inflection point in how we work and what we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, it's the conversations we're having with other people that have come into this that maybe aren't in the same tech sphere as us, that are having that chat as well. And I loved what Karuana, she said there, and also in her keynote she gave about this rapid adoption and the kind of focus on coaching over teaching. Let the product guide their own training plan. The way we get these things to people is changing as well, and we've got to embrace that.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that mirrors what we've seen in our internal rollout at Avanade and some of the work we're doing with clients as well, where this isn't about training. This is about helping people build their own Copilot muscle and really think about how they bring these new capabilities into their working habits and working practices.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're running out a little bit. Actually, one last comment she made, the last one around what she wanted to see next around those admin experiences being changed by Copilot. Obviously, I think Microsoft rightly is trying to get to as many people as possible. So it's that end user, is that initial focus. But as we see more and more of this come through, I know there was some deep dives into the M365 admin Copilot, which I'm sure has a very different name in reality, with there. But that kind of ability to accelerate all those point roles within an organization as well, and bringing that same large language model power to it will really be interesting. And I her view that next year will be a big focus on that, I think it's absolutely true as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm definitely going to get that sticker of mindful of our transmissions, not fearful, on there. I thought that was a lovely one. So
just before that, I did love the stickers on the microphones, by the way.
Yes, I was particularly pleased at that idea on there. And kept kind of twisting a few people before we started to make sure they showed on there as well. It's all about the
Brilliant.
brand.
All right, next video.
Okay. I was going to say, not much time, so we're going to play this video and then kind of roll into the end a little bit. But this was a fascinating chat. It was great being at the conference. I didn't really plan too many of these interviews. I just rolled around trying to see who I knew and who I could chat to and who I got talking to. And Richard Harbridge, been an MVP for a long time. I didn't know that well. I kind of knew his reputation on that, but really love this chat. So yeah, let's roll Richard.
So, hello. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd be happy to. My name is Richard Harbridge. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and when I'm not doing Copilot stuff, I'm doing Viva and Power Platform work with customers.
There's things other than Copilot? Wow.
Well, they have a Copilot for Viva, Copilot for, so really not really. Yeah, it's all Copilot. Everything's Copilot now.
Absolutely. So, I guess first question then, what does Copilot mean to you?
You know, I think at the end of the day, it's encapsulating what features, what scenarios can I accomplish in a post-generative AI era. And so, you know, analytics and automation have helped us for years, and now we just have a very different way of working with those tools that's, you know, represented by what we call copilots, agents that we work with that help us do more with less.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask about that. A post-generative AI, you mean sort of after generative AI has become, you're not saying we've moved beyond that yet?
No, I think we're still in the middle of that transition.
And I'm still keeping up with generative AI, so I'm hoping there's not something more yet.
I think, you know, the good news is we predicted generative AI, right? We knew it was coming. We just thought, you know, and when I say we, the industry, we thought it would be like in 2050, 2060, it was a ways away. It came much sooner, and then because it came much sooner and the way in which it came sooner, the ways we learned about scale and how scale can dynamically change things, and now we're dealing maybe with inference engines with the same consequences. We're learning that, hey, there's you know, it's unleashed a lot of potential in a lot of AI scenarios. So it didn't just accelerate generative AI scenarios, it accelerated a lot of other AI scenarios based on the learning from it. So yeah, we're in that transition state, and then someday we'll be in that, you know, post AI era. I'm not sure what that will look like. I don't think anyone knows, but yeah, that's where we're at.
And so what do you think the biggest transformation will be to people themselves?
You know, I think what I see AI representing today is that it provides access to skills and expertise that people don't have, right? So, you know, some people, like myself, I'm pretty good with a PowerPoint presentation. Other people, they can make PowerPoint presentations as good as I can using Copilot for Microsoft 365. Absolutely. And so it gives people access to skills they didn't have. Now, some of those skills are, you know, going to be disruptive. People being able to edit videos or being able to do, like, create images. Those are things that used to be skills that, you know, we put a value on, and those are now going to be adjusted. But I think generally it's access to skills. The second pattern, and I think it's important, is that it doesn't just give us access to skills, but allows for hyper-personalization. So the idea is, you know, I have my Copilot, you have your Copilot, and then we have Copilots together, right? So if we're taking Copilot for Microsoft 365, I might use it in a meeting context in really unique ways for me, as I've learned, and then you're going to use it in your own unique ways, which allows us both to amplify our impact. And then, you know, the whole meeting will have like meeting notes and extracts, and we'll have a Copilot agent we all use together in a more transparent way. And that is a really interesting model where, you know, it's not just like one facet. There's like this multifaceted layering of how our agents can help us, right, with these skills and access to knowledge.
No, I love that personalization. And I should say, here at ESPC and Jeff Teeper and others have been saying again, it's not learning from your data.
Yes.
But because it's grounded on new information, that's how you're getting that personal information out from there with the M365 side. So, so what's thinking better ahead and before people get moving? What's the most important thing to do to prep for Copilot?
You know, I know that a lot of people, there's sort of like the typical answer is you should prepare your security, you should make sure your content isn't over and shared, you should, you know, get rid of redundant versions, you know, you should enable it by migrating into the cloud or connecting so that the data is, you know, accessible to Copilot. You know, you should have champion programs, you should, you know, have adoption patterns that work really well for that. I think, you know, one of the challenges I find for a lot of organizations is that they haven't really thought about the impact low code has. I'm just going to use that as an example. So when you use low code and you talk about it at a strategic level, you're talking about what we call like lowercase p processes, right? So you have like the capital P processes are in ERP systems, CRM systems, employee experience systems, and the big vendors are always improving those with AI and all sorts of things. And we're all going to get those benefits, and the whole industry kind of gets uplifted. But it's the lowercase p processes that differentiate an organization from being more competitive than another. And a lot of those processes, when we talk about Power Automate or we talk about, SharePoint or, even Viva experiences, a lot of it is about like, how do we, make that part of our organization a little bit more resilient, a little bit more agile, a little bit more successful. And I find that while we can talk about all those other things at a leadership level, if there's not this understanding that the lowercase p processes matter just as much, arguably more, for competitive differentiation than the capital P processes, then Copilot's a harder sell, because then they're only going to want the Copilot or AI experiences that are in, those capital P systems. And if you do that, you're way behind the game, because by the time you roll out, for all your users, and everyone should have a mandate, like everyone should have access to AI. It's a competitive advantage internally in your career role too. Everyone should have access to it. What type of AI, Copilot for Microsoft 365, that's going to be more targeted versus like Copilot, which was Bing Chat for Enterprise. That could be for everyone, right?
And even the sort of Azure OpenAI services, building custom Copilots for particular ones as well. No,
so
absolutely.
I think like there's a lot of emphasis right now in these pilots and previews where we say, oh, can you show me the metrics? Like how is this going to drive this bottom line? And we're like, well, it's productivity, it's quality, it's these types of things. And those are aligned with like employee effort scoring, which would be like the equivalent of customer effort scoring. It's a predictive indicator. It creates potential, but it's not like we're just reducing costs, because then you run into, I'll be frank, I've had complex discussions where they're like, hey, if we can be that much more productive, maybe we can reduce our staff count and make more money and be more profitable. I'm like, you could, or you can keep those people because now they have more time and power, capability, and then you can use AI to do things you're not doing today, be way more competitive and way more capable. And that's, the best opportunity is we keep the humans in the middle and we're, accelerating them.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to come back to something you were talking about, low code there. I love Donna Sarker in her keynote at the South Coast Summit was talking to the Power Platform people and saying, you have all been through this. You've gone through this transformation. You are the perfect people to get involved. So it was good to hear you bring that up as well.
Absolutely.
So we're here at ESPC. Is there anything you've seen while you've been here around Copilots made you want to kind of learn a bit more or have a look at the sort of deeper dive into it?
I think Copilot's one of those things you learn with others, right? Well, none of us, look, we've done 100 plus Copilot implementations now. We don't know what the right way to do it is. Like, there's no playbook or best practice yet because it's too new and it's changing too rapidly. And so I think a lot of the conversations I've had here have been really fun because it's been like, how do you individually use it? Or, how did your team, it's the micro scenarios like of their usage, and you learn like tactics that you never used yourself. Like, the other day we were having a conversation about it and I was like, I use it for image work, right? And things like that. But they were actually using it to take existing images, like from content, articles, etc., and then they rebuild those images and new things, and then refresh existing articles and things like that. So, like from an intranet communications perspective, it allows them to kind of refresh older content for a new scheme. Now all these images have like a common color scheme, layout, whatever, and now there's this nice cohesive brand, and it makes it easier for moving forward because people can just reflect back. And now anytime we create new images, we can use that same tactic. So it's little, but like those stories and narratives, they stack up, and then they eventually become those playbooks. When you're working the next time with a customer or working internally, you're like, okay, here's something that might resonate with you, a thing we can do, a use case, a pattern. And I think those right now, the best way to find those is events like this. It's connecting with people for sure.
Absolutely. So what is it you'd like to see next? And this is a very open-ended question. We've had some very interesting answers to this one. So
I think I'll be appreciative. I think Microsoft's moving quite quickly. I actually will give strong compliment to them. I think, it's hard. It's really hard problem to have the right responsible AI pattern, compliance, governance, all these things, and roll out something like a Copilot. So I'm not asking them to move faster, but I do think we need more flexibility in key approaches like licensing and things like that. And it's easy for me to say that. I obviously have some insight into like why the 300 minimum and stuff is happening, but at the end of the day, I think it's not even about that. I think I have customers now who have 200 some odd seats, and they're buying 300 seats to use Copilot.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a
So sorry, they've only got 200 people.
200 some odd people, but they're literally buying 300 seats with all the licensing impact because they see the productivity gains and the quality gains and the impact Copilot can have, and they know that they can true down or whatever. They'll adjust when Microsoft comes to market with other options. But I would like to see that move a little bit quicker, just a little bit more flexibility. I'm sure everyone would like that, but I think that's my biggest, as soon as possible, let's figure out some pathway, even if it's like, look, it's more expensive at this lower threshold, whatever it is.
Hey, I think you're joining the long queue of people here at this conference who've been asking that question.
Yeah, give it to me now, right? Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So,
well, thank you very much for that. That was fantastic.
A pleasure.
Cheers.
So a fascinating chat with Richard. I hope you all appreciated me wearing my Christmas jumper in that one as well. It was part of the ESPC Ugly Sweater Day, so managed to get about, I think it's about 8 or 9 people in the end wearing ugly sweaters and got a photo. All the important things from that.
Yeah, and I noticed from some of the pictures that were on social, we had a couple of people in those different versions of the Lidl Christmas jumpers.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Some truly awful jumpers, which was great. And congratulations to Yao Ferreira for winning, basically because he had the most irritating jumper with lots of jingly bells that played a really teeny digital noise as well. So, it's nice, these conferences, we can have fun as well as the serious discussion as well.
Yeah, so I really loved that video for Richard. I know you got loads more interviews while you were there, Kevin. So on the next episode, we'll feature some more of the interviews from ESPC. Who have we got for people to look forward to?
So we have some fantastic ones. We've got Heather Cook coming up, a lovely chat with Carolina Ketukari. I'm also managed to get a little bit dev focused. So had Gary Trinder, my podcast co-host in my other podcast worlds on there, talking about extending there. Anoop Tati with his experiences of Azure OpenAI and bringing those together. And then possibly a name that not many of you have heard about, but Gabriel Ho, who's a marketing manager for Copilot, managed to pin down him for a bit of a chat on there as well. So, some great ones. A lovely one, and I hope Adam's not listening because I haven't told him yet, but a fantastic interview with Adam Harmitz that if any of you are good at lip reading will just be fantastic. If you're not, unfortunately, the hardware and the tiredness of the last day it hit slightly and it looks like the sound didn't record on that. So we're looking and see what we can do, or maybe even Adam, if you are listening, we would love to get you in for a full interview on the show anyway.
Yeah, I think we should try and get Adam anyway, because that was what I was really looking forward to. But for everyone else, we'll get another episode recorded as quickly as possible so that you can hear all of those interviews whilst they're still hot off the press from ESPC.
Absolutely. And as we get to wrap up, just a reminder for people, we do have the Custom Copilot Connection challenge going on, trying to ask you to go in and find out a way with the power of generative AI, large language models, all these good things. How can you digest all the amazing announcements that came out of Ignite? And we do have some Lego available for that. I think we've seen Paul Bullock has put a couple of things out. I need to pin him down and get some more details on those. But if other people are doing it, please let us know. And we'd love to share on that. And I have my new Azure credit renewal, so I can actually crack on with my own entrance for that as well.
Brilliant. Well, we hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, and please subscribe, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, subscribe to us on YouTube, tell your colleagues, tell your clients, tell your friends, even tell your parents, as everyone is intrigued by this world of copilots happening.
Thanks for listening. Thank you from the Copilot Connection.
See you soon. Bye.